Sydney, 3:17 a.m. The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days, and neither had the killer. Detective Alex Monroe stood over the body, the fifth one this month. Each victim found with a red feather clenched in their hand. No fingerprints, no CCTV, no motive. But this time, the feather wasn't red. It was blue, and it came from his own office. That's when Alex realized the hunter was now being hunted. The feather in the rain. Sydney hadn't slept for 3 nights. Neither had Detective Alex Monroe. The city was drowning under relentless rain, the kind that blurs the skyline, erases footsteps, and makes crime scenes look cleaner than they really are. But nothing could wash away the blood pooling near the dockyard in Pyrmont that morning. A body lay face down beside a half-open shipping container. Male, early 30s, no wallet, no phone. Only one thing stood out, a red feather clenched tightly in his right hand. Alex adjusted his coat and crouched beside the corpse, raindrops bouncing off his hat. Open quote, "Same as the others," said Constable Raya Patel, her voice barely audible through the storm. "Red feather, no trace, no clue." Close quote, Alex sighed. "That makes 5. 5 bodies, all in different suburbs, all with the same damn feather." Rhea nodded grimly. "Forensics says the feathers are dyed, not natural. But this," she pointed at the hand, "this one looks fresh, maybe planted recently." Alex stared at it for a moment. The rain hit harder, like the sky was mocking him. He'd seen a lot in his 15 years with the NSW police. Gang hits, domestic killings, even serial maniacs who thought they were artists. But this one felt personal. He stood up. "Lock down the docks. I want every camera, every vehicle, every worker checked. Whoever did this knew where to hide." 3 hours later, Central Police Station. Alex sat in his office, staring at the evidence board. 5 victims, 5 suburbs, 5 red feathers, but no connection, no pattern. Nothing except chaos. A mug of cold coffee sat on his desk, untouched. His phone buzzed. It was an anonymous text. Open quote. "You missed one. Check your inbox, detective." Close quote. He frowned. There was no name, no number, just a gray message bubble that vanished seconds later. He opened his email. One new message. No sender. Subject line, Feather 6. Inside was a single photo, grainy, low light. It showed a person lying on a concrete floor, surrounded by puddles. And next to the body, a blue feather. He zoomed in on the image. His stomach twisted. The carpet, the desk, the window behind. It was his own office. He stood abruptly, knocking the chair over. Rhea rushed in. "Sir, you okay?" Alex's voice was low. "Get IT. I want to know where that email came from. Now." An hour later, the IT tech looked nervous. "We traced the email. It came from a public Wi-Fi near the rocks. Bounced through 3 proxies. Could be anyone." Alex clenched his jaw. Of course it could. He leaned back in his chair, thinking, whoever sent that email had been inside the station. They knew his room, his angles, his life. Rhea spoke quietly. "You think this is a threat?" Alex looked at the photo again. "No," he said. "It's a message." He walked to the window. The rain outside hadn't stopped. It blurred the city lights into a watery mess of red and blue, police lights reflecting on wet glass. He whispered, almost to himself, open quote, "They're not just killing randoms, they're leading me somewhere." Close quote. Later that night, Alex's apartment, Balmain. Alex's flat was small, functional, almost sterile. A single photograph on the wall, his wife Emily, smiling with their daughter before the accident 5 years ago. The memory hurt. That was the year he stopped smiling. He poured himself a whiskey and sat by the window. The rain sounded softer here, but his mind wasn't at peace. At 11:43 p.m., another message buzzed on his phone. Open quote, "You shouldn't have ignored the feathers." Attached was an address, Clover Street, Newtown. Close quote, Alex grabbed his coat, gun, and keys. He didn't even think twice. Newtown, 12:20 a.m. The alley at Clover Street was dark and narrow. The only light came from a flickering sign that read Clover Laundry. The smell of wet garbage and old smoke filled the air. He moved slowly, flashlight in hand, boots splashing in shallow puddles. Something glinted near a dumpster. He aimed the beam, a blue feather. It was pinned to the wall with a knife, and beneath it, another photo. This time it wasn't of a body. It was him. Taken earlier that day at the dockyard. Someone had been following him, watching every move. Suddenly his radio crackled, Rhea's voice. Open quote, "Detective Monroe, we've got a situation. The forensics lab, it's been broken into." Close quote. Alex turned, heart racing. What? What did they take? Open quote, everything related to the feather case. Close quote. He stared at the blue feather pinned to the wall. The rain intensified, hammering down like gunfire. Whoever this was, they were always one step ahead. The shadows of the rocks. Sydney's morning light crept through the blinds of the central police station like an unwanted guest. Detective Alex Monroe hadn't slept. The walls of his office were closing in, and every red string on the evidence board looked like a noose tightening around his neck. Rhea entered with 2 coffees. Open quote, "You look like hell, sir." Close quote. Alex forced a smirk. "That's becoming my natural look." She placed the cup beside him and handed over a tablet. Open quote. Forensics confirmed it. The blue feathers made of the same synthetic fiber as the red ones, but the dye's different. Industrial grade. Only a few places in Sydney use that formula. Close quote. Alex leaned forward. "Where?" Open quote. "A printing company in the rocks. Name's Vantage Signs. Small operation. Closed 3 years ago after a fire." Close quote. He froze. "The rocks." That's where the mystery email had originated. "Let's move," he said, grabbing his coat. The rocks. 10:05 a.m. The old building stood like a ghost. Blackened bricks, shattered glass, and graffiti scrawled across the burnt signboard. Rhea parked the unmarked Holden at the curb. Alex walked in first. The air smelled of ash and rust. Rats scattered across the floor, but the strangest thing, it was silent. Too silent. He swept his torch across the room. Dust particles shimmered in the light. Broken printers, metal frames, charred shelves. Then he saw it. On the far wall, a freshly painted red feather. Beneath it, written in dripping blue paint. Open quote. "Where were you in 2019, detective?" Close quote. Rhea's breath caught. What the hell? Alex felt his stomach twist. 2019, at the year Emily and his daughter died. The year he disappeared from duty for 6 months. The year no one talked about. He stepped closer, eyes burning. "Someone knows." Open quote. "Knows what?" Rhea asked softly. Close quote. He didn't answer. Moments later, Rhea's radio crackled. Open quote. "Detective Monroe, this is command. We've got a call from an informant claiming he knows who's behind the feathers. Name's Mason Dyer. He wants to meet at Circular Quay." Close quote. Alex exchanged a glance with her. "Mason Dyer? He's been off the grid for years. He used to run with the O'Keefe gang." Open quote. "Says he's ready to talk, but only to you." Close quote. Alex's pulse quit perfect. Too planned. Planned. Still, he nodded. "Let's go." Circular Quay, 11:32 a.m. The rain had finally stopped, but the air was thick with sea salt and unease. Tourists milled about, snapping photos of the Opera House finance. Alex scanned the benches near the ferry terminal. A man in a dark hoodie waved nervously. Mason Dyer, older, thinner, eyes darting like a cornered animal. Alex approached slowly. "You've got 30 seconds to tell me why I'm here." Mason swallowed. "It's about the feathers. I know who's behind them." Open quote. "Then talk." Close quote. He hesitated. "You remember Operation Phoenix, yeah? That undercover job you did in 2019? Alex's muscles tensed. "That's classified." Mason lowered his voice. "Not to the people you burned. You and your partner, what was his name? Carter? You set up a deal that went sideways. A kid got shot. His brother swore he'd make you pay." Alex's face went pale. "Who's his brother?" Mason opened his mouth to answer, and a shot rang out. Mason jerked backward, blood blooming on his hoodie. Screams erupted around them. Alex dropped to the ground, pulling his gun. "Rhea, find the shooter." But the crowd was chaos, people running, shouting, falling. Somewhere in the distance, a motorbike roared and vanished down the street. When the noise settled, Mason Dyer was gone. Dead before the ambulance arrived. Alex crouched beside the body. Something glimmered near Mason's hand. A tiny blue feather. He picked it up. On its stem, a single word written in ink. Open quote. "Confess," close quote. Central Station, that evening. The brass weren't happy. The chief, Superintendent Clark, slammed a file on Alex's desk. Open quote. "Another civilian dead? A public shooting? And you're chasing ghosts? What the hell is going on, Monroe?" Close quote. Alex stared straight ahead. "Someone's targeting me. They know about Operation Phoenix." Open quote. "That operation's sealed. You mention it again and you'll be suspended." Close quote. Clark turned to leave, then stopped. Open quote. "And Alex, don't make me think you're losing it again." Close quote. The door slammed. Rhea looked at him, such, "You want to tell me what really happened in 2019?" He rubbed his temples. A deal went wrong. I went undercover with Carter to infiltrate the O'Keefe crew. One night, a shootout broke out. A kid was caught in the crossfire. We couldn't save him. The case was buried, and He stopped. I thought it was over. Ria's eyes softened, but someone didn't. Later that night, Sydney Harbor Bridge. Alex stood alone by the railings, city lights flickering beneath the dark sky. The harbor glowed, calm and indifferent. He took out the blue feather, turning it in his hand. "Confess," he muttered. His phone buzzed. Another message. Open quote, "It's not over, Alex. You took my brother. Now I'll take your truth." Attached, a live video link. Close quote, he tapped it. The screen showed Detective Carter tied to a chair, bruised, bleeding, somewhere underground. Open quote, Carter groaned, "Alex, don't come." Close quote. Then a figure stepped into the frame, face hidden by a hood. They held up a red feather, then a blue one, and spoke with chilling calm. Open quote. "The feathers are the sins you buried. Every one of them will bleed until you remember." Close quote. The feed cut out. Alex's reflection in the phone screen looked hollow, haunted. He whispered, open quote, "Then I'll remember everything." Operation Phoenix. The city slept under a bruised sky. Detective Alex Monroe didn't. He sat alone in his apartment, the faint hum of the refrigerator the only sound breaking through the silence. The video replayed again and again on his phone. Carter, his old partner, bound to a chair, bleeding. The hooded figure, the feathers. Every replay tore deeper into his mind. The past he'd buried was clawing its way back. The flashback. 2019 Operation Phoenix. The mission that was never meant to exist. Alex remembered it like it was yesterday. He and Detective Ryan Carter had gone undercover to bust the O'Keefe crime syndicate, a ruthless network smuggling weapons through Sydney's docks. Their cover was tight, their intel cleaner than a whistle. Until that night. A gun deal in Redfern had gone sideways. A firefight erupted. In the chaos, a teenage boy, no older than 15, ran into the line of fire. A stray bullet hit him in the chest. Alex froze. Carter screamed for backup, but it was too late. The boy's last words still haunted Alex. Open quote, "Tell my brother, I wasn't part of it." Close quote. The case was wiped, files sealed. The media never heard about the dead boy or the police cover-up that followed. Only Alex and Carter knew. Now, someone else did. Back to the present. 1:15 a.m., Ria sat opposite Alex in his apartment, a storm of confusion on her face. Open quote, "So, the kid who died? The killer's brother?" Close quote. Alex nodded slowly. His name was Ethan Cade. The O'Keefe gang used his brother Liam Cade as a mule. When the deal went bad, Ethan showed up to warn him. Wrong place, wrong time. Open quote. "And the department buried it to protect you and Carter?" Close quote. Alex exhaled. "The brass said it was a collateral incident. They told me to forget it. But Liam didn't." Ria's voice trembled. "So he's the one behind the feathers?" Alex looked out the window. "Looks like he's been collecting them for 6 years." Central Police Archives, 3:04 a.m. They slipped into the restricted section. Ria hacked through the clearance with her badge override. Dust and silence hung heavy. Alex found the sealed folder labeled Operation Phoenix, classified. Inside, reports, witness statements, blurred photos, and one file missing. Open quote, "Someone's already been here," Ria said. Close quote. Alex scanned the empty folder pocket. It was the one labeled Undercover Asset, Liam Cade. He froze. "Asset? Wait, Liam worked with us?" Ria frowned. "Are you saying?" Before she could finish, the lights flickered. A voice echoed through the hallway. Open quote, "You finally opened the box, detective." Close quote, Alex's heart jumped. The voice came from the intercom system, distorted, cold, and too familiar. Open quote, "I told you to confess. Now Carter's blood is on your hands too." Close quote. Ria shouted, "Who are you?" Static. Then silence. A moment later, the building's power cut out. Emergency lights flickered red. Underground parking lot, 3:20 a.m. Alex and Ria raced toward the exit when a motion sensor light snapped on. A shadow moved behind the parked cars. Open quote, "Show yourself," Alex yelled, gun drawn. Close quote. A figure emerged, tall, dressed in a black raincoat, hood up. In one hand, a gun. In the other, a blue feather. Open quote. "You finally remember my brother?" the man said. "He died begging for your help while you ran for cover." Close quote. Alex's grip tightened. "Liam, you think killing Carter will bring him back?" Open quote. "Carter's just the beginning." Close quote. The man tossed the feather. It landed near Alex's boots, soaked in something dark. Blood. Then, a gunshot. Ria fired first. The man dodged, vanishing into the stairwell. They chased him up, boots pounding against concrete, echoes bouncing through the empty floors. The stairwell opened to the rooftop, and he was gone. Only the wind and rain remained. On the ledge, a feather fluttered, blue. Pinned beneath it, a note. Open quote. "You can't catch a ghost, Alex, not until you face your own." Close quote. The next morning, forensics unit. The feather from the rooftop came back from the lab. Synthetic dye again, but with a trace of blood type O negative. Ria scanned the results. Matches someone in the police database. Alex looked up. Who? Ria hesitated. Carter. His pulse stopped. Open quote. Carter's still alive, but his blood's on this feather, which means Liam's been keeping him somewhere close. Close quote. Alex's eyes narrowed. Somewhere tied to the rocks. The dye, the warehouse, the messages, it all started there. The rocks, 9:50 a.m. Alex stood before the burnt ruins of Vantage signs again. This time, something caught his eye. A metal door half buried under rubble. He kicked it open. A staircase descended into darkness. The smell hit first. Damp air, mold, and blood. He followed the steps down into a basement lit by flickering fluorescent bulbs. And there, tied to a chair, barely conscious, Carter. Open quote. Alex, he croaked. Close quote. Alex ran to him, cutting the ropes. I'm getting you out. Carter's voice was weak. It's not over. He's here. A gun cocked behind them. Open quote. Smart man, detective. Close quote. Liam Cade stepped out of the shadows. Hood off now, face scarred, eyes burning with 6 years of hatred. Open quote. You remember me, don't you? Close quote. Alex slowly raised his hands. I remember your brother. It was a mistake. Open quote. No. It was a cover-up. Liam's voice cracked. He died because you chose your badge over his life. Close quote. Alex stepped forward. Then shoot me, but it won't bring him back. Liam's hand trembled on the trigger, his eyes filled with tears. Open quote. You don't deserve peace. Close quote. Before he could fire, Carter lunged, grabbing the barrel. A gunshot echoed. Liam stumbled, clutching his arm. Alex grabbed his gun, shouting, "Drop it, Liam!" But Liam only smiled. A cold, broken smile. Open quote. You think this ends here? Close quote. He threw something metallic at Alex's feet. A small detonator. A deafening explosion ripped through the basement. Smoke. Fire. Silence. Ashes of the phoenix. Smoke. Silence. Then pain. Detective Alex Monroe opened his eyes to a blur of orange flames and falling debris. His ears rang like sirens from hell. Every breath tasted like burnt metal. He pushed himself up, coughing hard. The basement of Vantage signs was collapsing, concrete chunks raining from above. Across the room, Carter lay half buried under twisted steel beams. Blood streaked his face, but his eyes flickered open. Open quote. Alex, he rasped. Close quote. Alex staggered towards him, dragging him out from under the debris. Stay with me, mate. Don't you dare check out now. The air crackled with fire and smoke. In the corner, no sign of Liam Cade. Only blood. A trail leading toward the shattered stairwell. Alex's voice broke through the chaos. Open quote. Ria, I need backup at the rocks, basement level. Multiple casualties. Close quote. Her voice crackled through the radio, faint but urgent. Open quote. Hang on, sir. Units are en route. Close quote. # 20 minutes later. Outside the ruins, rain poured again, hissing as it met the smoldering wreck. Firefighters battled what was left of the flames. Alex sat on the curb, wrapped in a gray blanket, his face ash-streaked, eyes hollow. Carter was rushed into an ambulance, barely conscious. Ria knelt beside him. You're lucky to be alive. We pulled fragments of an explosive device from the rubble. Liam didn't plan to survive that blast either. Alex shook his head. No, he planned to disappear. Open quote. Disappear? Close quote. He met her gaze. He left blood behind his own to fake his death. He's not done. Sydney Police HQ, 2 hours later. The mood in the precinct was electric. The news had broken. Explosion at the rocks. Detective survives attempted murder. Superintendent Clark called Alex into his office. The walls smelled of cigars and politics. Open quote. You've caused a bloody media storm, Monroe, Clark barked. But you also might have flushed out a terrorist. That's something. Close quote. Alex ignored the sarcasm. I want access to the old Phoenix files, all of them. Someone inside leaked our movements to Liam. He knew where we'd be, every time. Clark folded his arms. You're implying there's a mole in the department? Alex's eyes hardened. I'm not implying, sir. I'm confirming. Clark exhaled. Fine, but tread lightly. You're already a public target. Hospital ward, 9:45 p.m. Carter lay in his bed, eyes half open, face pale. Alex sat beside him, the rain tapping the window like a ticking clock. Open quote. You saved me, Carter whispered. After everything, you still came back. Close quote. Alex forced a thin smile. You'd have done the same. Carter's voice weakened. No, I wouldn't have. There's something I need to tell you, Alex. About Phoenix. Alex leaned forward. What about it? Carter swallowed hard. It wasn't Liam who leaked the mission. It was someone from inside, someone high up. I tried to protect you, but they threatened my family. Open quote. Who? Alex demanded. Close quote. Carter's lips trembled. Clark. Alex froze. Superintendent Clark? Carter nodded faintly. He ran Phoenix off the books, used it to wipe out O'Keefe's competition. Ethan Cade wasn't collateral, he was a witness. Alex felt the ground vanish beneath him. The truth hit harder than any explosion. Before he could ask more, Carter's heart monitor flatlined. Nurses rushed in. Alex stood frozen, watching as they failed to bring him back. Carter, his partner, his brother, was gone. And the man who'd ordered Phoenix was his own boss. The next morning, Sydney Harbor. The dawn broke cold and gray. Alex stood by the water, watching the city wake up. He held Carter's badge in his hand, its metal edges bent and blackened from the fire. Behind him, Rhea approached quietly. Open quote. I'm sorry, sir. Close quote. He didn't turn. They killed him to keep Phoenix buried. Open quote. Clark? Close quote. Alex nodded slowly. He used us. He used Liam's brother as bait. And when it all went wrong, he let me take the fall. Open quote. What do we do? Close quote. Alex slipped the badge into his pocket. Open quote. We finish it. Close quote. Superintendent Clark's office. That afternoon, Clark was signing off paperwork when Alex walked in unannounced. Open quote. You look like you've been through hell, Clark said, half smiling. Close quote. Alex dropped a file onto his desk, the classified Phoenix report, reprinted and unsealed. Open quote. You lied to me, to all of us. You used Phoenix to run a dirty war and covered it with police blood. Close quote. Clark's smile faded. Watch your tone, detective. Open quote. Carter's dead because of you. Close quote. Clark stood, jaw tight. Carter was weak. He talked too much. You'll end up the same if you don't. Alex slammed him against the wall, the file scattered like snow. Open quote. Where is Liam? Close quote. Clark chuckled. You still don't get it, do you? Liam was never your enemy. Alex's eyes narrowed. What? Clark smirked. He was my weapon. Alex froze. Open quote. You trained him? Close quote. Clark stepped forward, straightening his suit. I recruited him after his brother died. Told him you were responsible, fed his rage, turned him into my ghost. Every crime he committed tied back to you, made the perfect scapegoat. Alex's voice was low and deadly. You used both of us. Clark grinned. And I'll do it again. You're finished, detective. He reached for his drawer, but Alex was faster. He slammed his hand down, revealing a recording device flashing red. Open quote. That's your confession, Alex said coldly, and it's already streaming to Internal Affairs. Close quote. Clark's face went pale. You. The door burst open. Rhea entered with two officers. Open quote. Superintendent Clark, you're under arrest for conspiracy, obstruction, and corruption. Close quote. Clark's glare burned holes through Alex as they cuffed him. Open quote. You think this ends with me? He hissed. The feathers never stop falling. Close quote. They dragged him away. Alex stood silent, the rain tapping softly against the glass. That night, Sydney Bridge. Alex leaned against the railing, staring at the city lights. He took out one last blue feather, found in his coat pocket after the explosion. He turned it over. On the stem, a new message. Open quote. You caught the wolf, but the flock's still missing. Close quote. His phone buzzed. A new number. One text. Open quote. We're not done, detective. Close quote. He looked out at the dark water and whispered, open quote. Neither am I. Close quote. The feather drifted from his fingers into the harbor, vanishing into the night. The last feather. The city was quiet again. Too quiet. Sydney's skyline glittered like glass shards under the pale moon, but Detective Alex Monroe couldn't feel its beauty anymore. His world had become smoke, guilt, and ghosts. Superintendent Clark was behind bars, his confession plastered across every news outlet in New South Wales. But Alex knew the truth. Clark was never the real endgame. The text on his phone still echoed in his mind. Open quote, "We're not done, detective," close quote. And the blue feather on his desk wasn't a warning this time. It was an invitation. Central Police Station, 9:17 a.m. Ria entered Alex's office, carrying a fresh report. Open quote, "Forensics confirmed it. The feather found after Clark's arrest wasn't Liam's doing," close quote. Alex looked up. "What do you mean?" Open quote, "Different fiber source. This one's older. Natural pigment, not synthetic. Whoever made it has access to original O'Keefe materials," close quote. Alex frowned. "That warehouse was burned years ago." Ria hesitated. "Not all of it. There's one facility still active. O'Keefe Biodyes out in Parramatta. It's registered under a new name now." Open quote, "Whose name?" Close quote, she slid the file across the desk. "Director, Dr. Alex Monroe." Alex froze. His throat went dry. Open quote, "That's my sister." Close quote. Parramatta Industrial District, 10:43 a.m. The wind howled through the skeletal frame of the old factory. The sign outside read EM Laboratories, private property. Alex parked outside, heart pounding. His sister, Elise, was a genetic biochemist, brilliant, reclusive, obsessed with experimental dyes. He hadn't seen her in nearly 5 years, not since Emily's death. He stepped inside. Rows of vats, beakers, and humming machines lined the walls. The air smelled of chemicals and salt. And then, her voice. Open quote, "I was wondering when you'd finally come." Close quote. Elise stood at the far end, wearing a white lab coat, her dark hair tied back. Calm, confident. Too calm. Open quote, "You've been busy," she said, turning to face him. "The news loves you again. The fallen hero rises from the ashes." Close quote. Alex's jaw tightened. "Cut the crap. Why's your name on this lab? And what the hell do you know about the feathers?" Elise smiled faintly. "Everything. The truth." She walked over to a table, picking up a feather sealed in glass. It shimmered under the light. Half red, half blue. Open quote. "The blue feathers weren't about vengeance," she said. "They were about exposure." Close quote, open quote. "Exposure?" Close quote. Open quote. "Clark used your Operation Phoenix to erase O'Keefe's legacy. But before the fire, I recovered their research, chemical tracers they used in contraband shipments. Each color represented a target, a link, a witness. Red for victims, blue for insiders." Close quote. Alex's stomach twisted. "So the feathers were a code?" Elise nodded. "Exactly. Liam wasn't killing at random, he was leaving a trail, one I designed." Open quote. "You what?" Close quote. Open quote. "Liam came to me after Ethan died. He wanted justice. I gave him the means to expose Clark. You were never supposed to be part of it." Close quote. Alex's voice rose. "You sent him after me." Open quote. "No, Clark did that. He twisted the plan. Used my work to frame you both. By the time I realized, it was too late." Close quote. Alex slammed his hand on the table. "Too late? Carter's dead. Liam's missing. You created the system that killed them." Elise's composure cracked. "And you think you're innocent? You pulled the trigger that killed Ethan." The silence that followed was colder than the rain outside. Alex stepped back, eyes hollow. "I didn't mean to." Open quote. "Maybe not, but you did. And I watched my brother fall apart because of it. So don't come here pretending you're the victim." Close quote. The trap. Before Alex could answer, the lights flickered. The security door behind him locked with a metallic clang. Elise walked toward the console. "You shouldn't have come alone." Alex drew his gun. "What are you doing, Elise?" She pressed a button. A video appeared on the monitor. Live CCTV footage. "Liam Cade, alive, bound to a chair in a storage cell, somewhere in the building." Open quote. "You kept him here?" Alex shouted. Close quote. Elise's expression hardened. "He was never meant to die. I needed him to testify against Clark, but he lost control, started killing. The guilt ate him alive." Open quote. "Then let him go." Close quote. Open quote. "I can't." Close quote. Open quote. "Why the hell not?" Close quote. She turned toward him, tears finally breaking through. Open quote. "Because he's dying, Alex. The chemical dye, it's killing him. The feathers weren't just symbols, they were his countdown. Every murder accelerated the toxin in his blood. The last feather was his message to me." Close quote. Alex's gun lowered. "You mean the feathers were never about vengeance?" Open quote. "No, they were about confession." Close quote. The final choice. They ran to the cell. Liam sat slumped, pale, barely breathing. The blue veins on his arms glowed faintly under the light. Open quote. "You came," he whispered. Close quote. Alex knelt beside him. You should have stopped this. Open quote, couldn't. Not until truth came out. He coughed, blood staining his lips. Your sister tried to help me, but the toxin, close quote. He looked up at Alex. I forgive you. The words hit like a blade. Open quote, no Liam, don't, close quote. Liam smiled weakly. We're both ghosts now. He exhaled one final time. The monitor flatlined. Elise turned away, crying silently. Alex stood, trembling, the world spinning around him. It's over. But Elise shook her head. Not yet. She handed him one last feather, half red, half blue, the same one she'd shown earlier. Open quote. This is the final piece. It carries traces of every feather before it. If you hand it over to Internal Affairs, they'll know the full truth about Clark, the department, and me. Close quote. Alex stared at her. You'll go to prison. Open quote. Maybe I should. Close quote. He looked at the feather, a fragile, beautiful thing that carried death, truth, and guilt all at once. Then he tucked it inside an evidence bag. No more lies. 2 weeks later, Sydney Harbor. The city finally felt alive again. The rain had stopped. Alex stood by the water, the wind soft against his face. He'd given the feather to Internal Affairs. Elise had turned herself in. The department had reopened Operation Phoenix. Justice, in some form, had survived. Ria joined him, holding 2 cups of coffee. Open quote. You did it. It's over. Close quote. Alex smiled faintly. No, it'll never be over, not for me. Open quote. Then what now? Close quote. He looked at the sky. Blue, clean, endless. Open quote. Now, I start over. Close quote. As he walked away, something drifted across the water. A single feather, half red, half blue, floating toward the horizon. The ghosts of Sydney. 2 months had passed since the Blue Feather murders ended. Sydney had returned to its usual rhythm. Tourists crowding Circular Quay, seagulls screaming over the water, and the city pretending it had forgotten. But Detective Alex Monroe hadn't. He'd handed in his badge. Elise was serving time at Silverwater Prison. And Liam Cade was buried in an unmarked grave near Bondi. At least, that's what he'd been told. The letter. It arrived without a sender. No stamp, no handwriting, just his name typed on the front. Detective A. Monroe. Inside was a single blue feather. And beneath it, a note. Open quote, the truth doesn't end where the lies stop. EK, close quote. Alex froze. EK, Ethan Cade. But Ethan had been dead for 3 years. Silverwater Prison, 2:11 p.m. Elise looked weaker behind the glass, thinner, her once calm voice now strained. Open quote, you shouldn't have come, she said. Close quote. Open quote, I got a letter, Alex replied, sliding the note across. Recognize this signature? Close quote. Elise's eyes widened. She traced the letters slowly. Open quote. No one else should know those initials, close quote. Open quote. Then who sent it? Close quote. She leaned closer. There was always one more person involved, someone who never surfaced in Clark's files. Ethan had a handler, a silent partner funding the O'Keefe operations. Open quote. Name? Close quote. Open quote. I only knew him as the broker. But if he's still alive, she hesitated. He's finishing what Clark started. Close quote. Circular Quay, 5:07 p.m. Alex stood among the crowds, scanning faces. The city looked normal. Ferries docking, kids laughing, the air filled with sea salt and engine smoke. But then he saw it. A man in a dark coat sitting on a bench, feeding pigeons. Every pigeon that landed beside him had a small colored tag on its leg, red, blue, or white. Alex approached slowly. You training them? The man didn't look up. Open quote. Sometimes the birds carry messages faster than men. Close quote. Alex's hand drifted near his concealed weapon. You the broker? The man smiled faintly. Open quote. Names are for those who fear the truth. Close quote. Open quote. You sent me the feather. Close quote. Open quote. Yes. I wanted to see if you'd still chase. Close quote. Open quote. And if I am? Close quote. Open quote. Then you'll find the rest. Close quote. He stood, dropping a folder beside the bench. Before Alex could react, the man walked into the crowd. Gone. Inside the folder were photographs, recent ones. Elise in her cell, Ria at the station, and one more. Liam Cade, alive, in Melbourne. Melbourne docks, 11:43 p.m. The docks were silent except for the hum of cargo cranes. Alex's heart thudded as he followed the address from the photos. A rusted warehouse door creaked open. Inside, a faint glow, and a voice. Open quote. You took your time, detective. Close quote. Alex froze. Liam Cade stepped out of the shadows, alive. Older, thinner, his veins still faintly blue beneath the skin, but breathing. Open quote. You died. Close quote. Liam chuckled hoarsely. That's what everyone needed to believe. Open quote. Why? Close quote. Open quote. To end the cycle, to draw out the broker. He wanted me dead, but as long as I stayed a ghost, I could hunt him. Close quote. Open quote. Then why the letter? Close quote. Open quote. To warn you, he's not done. He's building something bigger. Not just corruption, Alex. A network. Close quote. Open quote. Of what? Close quote. Open quote. Cops, politicians, labs, prisons. All tied by one thing. Feathers. A code. You shut down one ring, but the chain's still alive. Close quote. Alex's jaw clenched. Where is he? Liam looked past him, eyes narrowing. Open quote. Behind you. Close quote. Hash, the betrayal gunfire erupted. Alex dove behind a container as bullets shredded the metal. Rhea stepped out from the darkness, gun raised, badge glinting. Open quote. You shouldn't have followed this, Alex. Close quote. Open quote. Rhea? Close quote. Open quote. The department needed control. Clark failed. Elise failed. But the broker keeps order. Close quote. Open quote. You were part of it? Close quote. Open quote. Since day one. You think they'd let a rookie like me work your case without reason? Close quote. Alex's heart pounded. Liam coughed blood, falling to his knees. Open quote. She's one of them, he gasped. End it, Alex. Close quote. Alex aimed, torn between justice and survival. Open quote. Drop it. Rhea shouted. Close quote. Open quote. Not this time. Close quote. He fired. The bullet tore through the air, striking Rhea's gun hand. She fell back, screaming. Liam stumbled forward, grabbing her weapon. Go, I'll cover you. Open quote. No, we end this together. Close quote. Open quote. You already did. Close quote. He turned the gun on himself. Alex shouted, Liam! But it was too late. The shot echoed across the dock. The feathers scattered from Liam's coat, carried away by the sea breeze, red, blue, and white. Epilogue. 1 year later, Alex lived quietly now, running a small security firm in Perth. He'd given up chasing feathers. Until one morning, he received a package. No return address. Inside, a white feather, and a note, open quote, the city never forgets its ghosts. R. Close quote. Alex stared at it for a long time. Then he smiled, a tired, knowing smile. Open quote, guess I'm not done yet. Close quote. The camera pans out, the Perth skyline shimmering in the distance. On the horizon, a bird soars, carrying a blue feather in its beak. The end.